Today in this trail system video, we're going to work on populating an inventory with our loaded trails. I'll get started with designing the GUI. I'll make it fairly quick because it is quite tedious. So add a new screen GUI into started GUI and just name it inventory GUI. I'm going to duplicate the shop handler, the background and the open button all from the shop GUI and drag it into the inventory GUI. I'll rename the shop handler to inventory handler. And I'll move the button down. I'll just rearrange these buttons so that they look more aligned. There we go, and I've just made it say inventory and made it a yellowy colour. I'll make the background visible so we can see it, and I'll just change the size slightly. So I will make it, rather than 0.448 on the Y, I'll make it 0.63 just to make it slightly longer. And now on the aspect ratio, just to reflect that, I'll make it 1.45. I'm going to change the UI corner to 0.025, just so it's less wide of a corner. I'll change the header text to say inventory. I'll just size this down slightly as well because it is quite large. So I'll give it a size of 0.1250. I'll resize the square button as well. I'll just make it 45 by 45. Or for me, that is 0.0740, 0.1090. Now let's replace the item frame with a scrolling frame. So add a scrolling frame and rename it to item frame. And just copy all the properties of the item frame. So copy the position over to the scrolling frame. Set the background transparency to 1. Copy the size of the item frame to the new item frame. And then we can copy the contents of the item frame into the new item frame and delete the old. This just makes it a scrolling frame. As we add more, we'll be able to scroll up and down. On the item frame, you can play around with the scrolling settings, so I can make the scroll bar image color white. I'm going to set automatic canvas size to Y, and I'll set the canvas size to 0000, because then it will automatically expand. Now, if I make my template visible, as I duplicate more, it will start expanding and add a scroll bar. I'll just undo this so there's only one template, and we need to play around with the template now. So the size of the template needs to change. So on my UI grid layout, I'll just change the Y from 0.45 to 0.35, and that looks a bit better. For the header of the template, I'm just going to drag it into the template rather than being above. And the reason for that is because when we duplicate this, as it gets to the top, it's going to get cut off slightly. And because I can't see the top of these when I scroll all the way up, go onto the grid layout and change the horizontal alignment to center and the vertical alignment to the top. And now we'll be able to see the top, but it does cut off that UI stroke. And I can't find a good way of fixing this. I'm not amazing with GUI. If anyone has a fix, let me know in the comments. But the best fix I'm going to do is a cover. So I'm going to add a frame into the background, and I'll rename this to scrolling cover. I'm just going to set the size to 1010 for now. Then I'm going to drag it up and resize it so that it's slightly less than the top of this where it's cutting off here. I'll then make the background color the same as the color of everything else, and I'll set the Z index to 2. What I'll do next is, because we can't actually see underneath it, I'm going to set the header of the inventory to a Z index of 3 and the close button to a Z index of 3 so that we can see them over the top of it. And now what we can do is, on the item frame, we can disable clip descendants. And now as we scroll up, it goes behind. When it goes outside the inventory, it's still visible. So we now need to click on the background and enable clip descendants on the inventory. The only problem now is that the inventory text and the close button have been clipped. So to fix this, we could either drag the inventory header and the close button outside of the background, and then we'll have to enable and disable them separately. Or we could just drag it inside. So I could have the inventory text inside, and the close button I could drag inside as well. That is the slightly easier fix, but it depends what option you would prefer. I'll now duplicate one of our UI corners and drag it into the scrolling cover, because you can see we've got little corners here. I'll just make this 10 or something like that to get rid of it. Perfect. Now as we scroll up and down, you can see we have no interference. Delete all my duplicated templates and just keep the original. And I'm going to add inside of the template a frame. And I'll rename this frame to preview. And this frame is going to display the color of the trail. So I will shrink it down. I'll give it a size of 0.640, 0.640. And I'll just place it in the middle. Next, I'll duplicate the header text and rename this to rarity. I'll place this towards the bottom. I'll resize it slightly so it's slightly smaller. And this will say the rarity. So this will say common. And the text up here will just be the name of the trail. Perfect. So I'll rename the purchase button to equip button and just change the text to say equip instead of purchase. I might just change the color of it so it's slightly easier to differentiate. Perfect. And that is it for the inventory. So what I'll do now is just disable the visibility on the template and on the background. Now feel free to make your own GUI. Just modify the code to match your GUI. Now to get onto scripting, let's open up this inventory handler script. And we can actually remove a lot of code. We're only going to use this to open and close the inventory. We're not going to do what we've done in the shop and generate the GUI because we're going to be relying on data inside of the player. And because it's in the player, if we are retrieving that data on the client, the player will be able to manipulate it and give themselves trails that they don't have. So we're going to handle it all on the server. The only thing we're going to do in this is hide and open the GUI. So we can remove the services, we can remove folders, we can remove modules and events. For GUI, we just need the GUI. We need the background, which is GUI : wait for child background, the open button, the close button, and that is it. We don't need the templates or the constants. We don't need the animate function or the open crate function. We don't need the generate function. We just need the close GUI and the open GUI. Now if we press play, we can still open the shop like normal, and we can also open the inventory. Okay, now in the leader stats script, we're going to create a bindable event. In another script, which I will create shortly, I want to manage the inventory and populate it from that server script. I don't want to have all the inventory functionality in the leader stats script because that doesn't make much sense. So we need a way to communicate between the leader stats server script and what will be our inventory manager server script. To do that, we can use something called a bindable event, and this allows us to call functions from other scripts in different scripts. So inside of our remotes folder in replicated storage, I will add a bindable event, and I will rename it to LoadInventory. Now we need to get the replicated storage, so local replicated storage is game : get service replicated storage. And now once we've loaded all our data, so in our player added method at the very end, after the print, I can just say replicated storage.remotes.loadInventory : fire, and I'm going to pass through the player and the trails because we're going to need to access these in that function. Now inside of our trails config, let's assign the colors. So remember, this preview is going to be used to display the color. Now, in case you have any trails that will have color sequences, like a rainbow where you've got multiple colors and it's like a gradient, we can't display that using background color free on the frame. So instead, set background color free to white on the preview, add a UI gradient, and we'll be able to change the color, and we can actually add gradients on here. So inside of our trails module, each trail is going to have a color. So for our red, let's assign a color key, and that will be equal to, and it has to be a color sequence. We cannot use color free. It's got to be a color sequence, even if it's going to be a solid color. Just for reference, a color sequence is this here. So if you've got multiple colors on here, this is a color sequence. Color sequence dot new, and we need to populate this with a table. So we could do parentheses and then curly braces here to do a table, or a little shortcut we can do is remove the parentheses and we can just do these square braces, and it'll still work the exact same. Now in here we need a table of color sequence key points, and this is our triangles. So if I go over to my trails and go to my legendary rainbow, and I open it up, each of these triangles is a key point, and we need a list of these key points. You can also see on each one there is a time here, and it starts at 0 and ends with 1. There always has to be a key point at 0 and at 1. Even if it's a solid color. So if it's a solid color, you're going to have the same color at 0 and at 1. So for our red color, I can just do color sequence, key point, dot new, and then in parentheses here, I'll pass for 0 for time 0, and our color, which will be color free, dot from RGB, and then our red color. So I'll find my red trail. I will copy the color and paste it in here. And then I will copy this line. I'll add a comma at the end, paste this line in again. I'll change this time to 1, and it'll be the exact same color. It's a bit annoying having to do it like this, but it's the best way to do it if you've got multiple colors. So now I will copy this from the ending brace to the comma and paste it into every single trail. Now for the green, I'll just change the color from the red color to my green color, which is 56, 255, 25. And I'll do the same for blue. My blue color is 14, 78, 255. And for the rainbow, this one is a bit more complicated. So I'm going to load my rainbow color sequence, and at position 0 I have a red color. I'll just make it the exact color it is. If I go onto here, I can actually click on the arrow, click the color, and I've got the red, green, blue here, so I know it's 25504. I just got to remember that and put it in here. And then if I look at it, I can see at time 0.23, so 0.23, I have the color 231, 255, 12. I can put in 231, 255, 12. Okay, and this is my entire color for the rainbow. So next, let's create the method in the server script service. So add a script to server script service. I'll rename this to inventory manager. So we're going to need replicated storage and the trails module. Now let's load the inventory. So I can say replicated storage dot remotes dot load inventory dot event :connect function. And remember, we take the player as a parameter, and we also have the trails, which is a folder. So we're passing through the trails folder inside of the player. From here, we need to populate their GUI. So we need all of their inventory GUI. So first, we need the player GUI, because that is where their GUI is located. So local player GUI is player, wait for child, player GUI. Make sure you spell this correctly. It's uppercase P, uppercase G. Now, you won't get any errors nor warnings if none of this loads. So make sure you spell everything exactly how it is spelled in your Explorer. Next, we need the inventory GUI. So local inventory GUI is player GUI, wait for child, inventory GUI. Then we need the background is inventory GUI, wait for child, background. And I'm just following it here. So inventory GUI, background. Then we need the item frame is our next item of interest. So local item frame is background, wait for child, item frame. Then finally we need the template. So local template equals item frame, wait for child, template. Now when you're testing this and it doesn't work, if that happens, to debug it, you can just add a print 1 here. Then after the next wait, a print 2. Then you could add a print 3 and so on. And then you'll be able to see in the output where it stops printing. So if it prints 1, 2, you know it stopped working at background, so it couldn't find background. That's a good way of debugging, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Next thing we need to do is loop through every single trail in the trails folder. So for underscore comma trail, in iPairs, trails :get children do. This is all of our trail objects. If you remember, the player has a folder which contains a bunch of Boolean values of every trail they own. For each trail they own, we're going to clone the template. So local clone equals template : clone. And then I'll set the parent of the clone to the item frame. Now inside of the clone, we need to get that preview. We need to get the UI gradient. We need to get the header text and the rarity text. So local preview is equal to clone : wait for child preview. Local gradient equals preview : wait for child UI gradient. Local header equals clone : wait for child header. And local rarity text is equal to clone : wait for child rarity. Next, we need to find the matching trail in this trails module to the trail that we have based on the objects here. So to do that, we need a relevant trail and a relevant rarity to display on the different texts. And we're going to loop through every single rarity, so the common, the rare, and the legendary. And then for each rarity, we're going to loop through every trail inside of the rarity. So I'll set up a local relevant trail and a local relevant rarity. And we can actually do this on the same line, which is pretty cool. And now we'll loop through every rarity. So for rarity, comma, trails for rarity, in pairs, and we'll pass through trails with an uppercase T. So this is our module script trails, not the trails we're passing through the method. And trails for rarity is just the name I'm going to give it, because trails for rarity is going to be the table of all of these trails. So red, green, blue in the case of common. Now we'll loop through all the trails in the trails for rarity. And say for trail name, comma, trail info, in pairs, and this will be the trails for rarity, do. And if the trail name in the trails module matches the name of the trail object in our trails folder in the player, then we can update the relevant trail and the relevant rarity. So if trail name is equal to trail.name, then relevant trail is equal to trail info, and relevant rarity is going to be equal to the rarity. Now at the very end, we'll just say if not, and then in parentheses, relevant trail and relevant rarity. Then continue end, so we'll move on to the next iteration of this for loop. And if we do have a relevant trail and a relevant rarity and we've found our match, then we'll update the texts. So the rarity text.text will be set to relevant rarity. Header.text will be set to trail.name. Gradient.color is going to be equal to relevant trail.color. And make sure this .color matches the way you've spelt it inside of the module script. And finally we can say clone.visible equals true. Now if we test this, you can see that I have in my trails folder an orange, 2 rainbows and a red. If I click my inventory, I have 2 rainbows, orange and red, and you can see the colours work perfectly. My rainbow is rarer than my orange and yellow, and my orange is rarer than yellow, but it's not displaying in the correct order. I want to display the most common first and the rarest last. In a future video, we're going to add some filters so that we can filter by rarity and name, etc. But for now, I just want to display the most common first and the rarest last. So to do that, in our trails module, we can add, after the colour, we can add a layout order. So for my most common, I'll just set the layout order to 1. For the second most common, I'll set it to 2, and then the third most common, I'll set it to 3, and so on. When I get to a new rarity, I can just set it to, I can either make it 4 in my case, or I can add a 1 before it. So let's say the last one here was 13 in your common. When you get to the next rarity, just add a 1 and then start again. So it'd be 101. And then I could have 102. In my case, I have no more than 9 in each rarity, so I can just go 1, 2, 3. And then in the rare, I can have 1, 1, 1, 2. And then in my legendary, I can just make the layout order 2, 1. Hopefully you can see the idea there. Just make sure the layout orders get increasingly large as you go down the list, and that's all you need to worry about. And now in the inventory manager, before we set the clone.visible to true, I can just say clone.LayoutOrder with an uppercase L and an uppercase O equals relevant trail dot layout order. Now when I press play, it's laid out in the correct order: red, orange, rainbow, rainbow. Now we have covered quite a lot there, so I'm not going to do any more in this video. We now have an inventory UI. Our equip button doesn't do anything yet. You'll notice if I go to the shop and let's open up a common crate, I get given it says player got green. If I open my inventory, I don't have green in here. I actually have to stop the game and then press play again to actually see the green in my inventory. I'm not going to worry about this right now because, as I say, the video is too long at the moment. But in the next part, we're going to hook that inventory up to update the inventory when we get new trails. And we're going to look at equipping and unequipping trails. And you can see how it's all coming to life now. Stay tuned for the next video to this tutorial. I have created a playlist which I'll leave a link to in the description, where I will add all the videos for this tutorial as they get released. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more tutorials. We have a Discord server, which you can find the link to in the description, where you can ask for programming help, help others, or just chat there. You can also leave feedback on our videos and channel. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.